Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Intuitive Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Pott. I'm an intuitive marriage mentor, and I help guide couples to be more self-aware by cultivating self-love and showing them how using their intuition can actually create a deeper, more soulful connection with their partners. So welcome, especially to any of you that are new to my podcast. I'm grateful that you are here. Thank you. Thank you. This week, we are on episode 17, and I'm coming into you at least a couple days late. It's been a week. It has been a week. And I'll maybe get to that. But funnily enough, I sort of had a different idea for the podcast this week. And then the universe has just kind of been throwing some tests and signs my way. And I just felt compelled to actually do this episode. It just worked out with what I was going through. So it's intuition versus ego. So we're going to get into that. But actually, this week, I've been inspired to do a reading. Last episode, I did an affirmation, positive affirmation daily card. And this week, I've been using the Starseed Oracle cards for, at least a couple of years now for myself. And I find that I do a 2-card spread. It's called the Soul Whispers. And if you'd like to partake, please, I'd love to have you here with me. So I'm just going to do a 2-card spread. This will basically kind of set the tone for the week. And I did a really good shuffle just because I don't know if you can hear and if it's annoying, but do another little couple of shuffles here. Let's just see, what do we have going on? First card for my beautiful souls will be a soul whisper. And this is what your soul is wanting you to know. And these cards are so beautiful. I wish you could see them, but what does your soul want you to know? I'm going to pull the card and then I'm going to read the guide from the guidebook. The weight of the world. Boundaries. Let it go. It's not yours to carry. So this is what your soul is wanting you to know. Weight of the world. Boundaries. Let it go. It's not yours to carry. So I'm going to find this in the guidebook. Weight of the world. Boundaries, let it go. It is not yours to carry. Beautiful souls, you don't need to carry it all. You're no good to anyone if you're running on empty and bogged down by the weight of the world. This card is a reminder to look after your own well-being before anyone else's. Whew. Yes, I needed this on Friday. To stop carrying the world's problems on your shoulders, to put on your own oxygen mask first. In these changing times, it's hard not to feel overwhelmed by the state of the planet. However, you can't take on its problems from a place of energetic depletion. This card is thanking you for caring so much. You want to build a better world and ease the road for others, and that's incredible. By the way, you've been doing it, so it's very likely that it's sustainable. If you continue doing this, it will be absolutely unsustainable in the way that you've been doing it. This isn't to say you could switch off to the world's problems and become unconscious. Rather, it's a call to establish clear boundaries so you're not constantly taken out energetically. The planet needs you to be healthy, both physically and emotionally. So instead of digesting the news or reaching for your phone as soon as you wake up, show up first for a nourishing practice such as meditation, soul inquiry, deep breathing, or exercising in nature. Once you're in a state of grace and your inner well is full, you can face the day, the state of the world, and care for others. And at the day's end, take an energetic shower by emptying out anything that's not yours to carry. You can pick it up again the next morning if you so choose, but give yourself time and space to rejuvenate and rest. And the Starseed and Soul Inquiry is, what are you carrying that isn't even yours? That was a good one. That was a great one for all of us this week. Wow. I really needed to hear that. I needed to hear that a couple days ago, but it's good. It's good now. So that is what our soul is wanting us to know. I will put that card to the side. And the next reading, the card 2 is grounded action, the action your soul is guiding you to take. So let's just do another little shuffle here. The action that your soul is guiding you to take. So I'm going to cut the deck in 3 again. So what do we have for my beautiful souls in regarding the action that we are going to be taking this week? Wait. It's not time yet. Things are being woven. And it's a picture of a beautiful girl, young lady in a dress flowing, sitting above the galaxy, stirring it. You know how the galaxy is sort of like a swirl? She's the one stirring it. Wait, it's not time yet. Things are being woven. This absolutely resonates with me so much this week. Okay, let's read. What is the book? Again, this is the Starseed Oracle Guidebook. It's by Rebecca Campbell, and the artwork is done by Danielle Noel, and it is absolutely beautiful. I have been reading from this book for myself for the last couple of years. I've read for a few people. It's always profound. You just always get the message that you're just supposed to hear at the right time. Wait, it's not time yet. Oh, sorry, it's not yet time. Things are being woven. In our fast, loud, reactive, comparative world, where an instant response is so often expected, and at times even a currency, it can feel almost impossible to take a breath, let alone give ourselves the space to rest, wait, and reset. We're so often in overdrive, expecting instantaneous results over and over again. And when guidance doesn't come at these extreme speeds, it can feel as though something's gone wrong. But often, not receiving guidance is guidance in itself. When you ask for guidance and don't receive it, it can often mean wait. It's just not time yet. The details are being woven. Our challenge is to keep trusting when, on the surface, it appears that nothing is happening. To remember that no matter how long or bitter the winter, spring does always come. To remember that you don't need to solve all the world's problems in a single day, and that perhaps they'll be better solved with some perspective and a good night's sleep. This card is your permission to slip, to slow down, to switch off and rest. You're being reminded to have patience and to trust the mystery of life, to trust that things are being woven on your behalf. It may not be happening to the timeline you'd like. Good Lord, not this week, nope. But if you gather up the patience, it will be orchestrated better than you can ever imagine. The Starseed Soul Inquiry on this is, how can you slow down, be more patient, and wait? Wow. Beautiful souls. This is freaking what a fantastic reading. Those are 2 messages that I absolutely needed to hear. The soul wants you to know the weight of the world, boundaries, let it go. It's not yours to carry. And the action, the grounded action that your soul is wanting you to take is to just wait. Everything's happening. It's all happening at the right time. So to have that patience. Okay, that was great. That feels really great. I love having an amazing reading. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know. Please give me some feedback on that. I don't have to do a reading every time if you don't want, but I think it sets the week. It always has helped me. Okay, let's get back to this episode. So, intuition versus ego, and just trying to navigate some marital decisions with some clarity involved. And this week, we're going to dive into a topic that can profoundly impact the quality of your marriage. Um, I have been tested to the limits, I feel, this week on this. Understanding the difference between intuition and ego in marital decisions. It's easy to confuse the two, but learning to distinguish between them can lead to more harmonious and fulfilling relationships. We're going to explore how to recognize when you're acting from a place of intuition versus ego. Whew, that was a huge lesson for me. I will definitely get into it, at least a little bit. And we will go over some practical exercises that you can start implementing today to strengthen your marriage. So this week, actually, the last few weeks have been a little challenging, but this past week on Friday in particular, I have found myself battling with intuition and ego like crazy on Friday. I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about it briefly. It's been a week. The universe has been testing me the last few weeks. So we've, in a nutshell, have recently wrapped our brains around making a trip and going to Australia. We weren't sure if it was actually going to be possible for the longest time. My really good friend is out there. I've had so many different hoops to jump through to get my passport. This past week, I've been to the two different passport offices like 3 times. Had different things I've had to bring in, get a new guarantor, get new passport photos, new signatures, you name it. There's a lot to do in a very short period of time. We are hoping to be flying out of here in 2 weeks. Actually, it was 2 weeks on Friday. So yeah, very stressful. I've also have like my car's coming off its lease. I've got to get things in place for that. I'm, doing all the banking stuff and trying to get that all done before we go as well. And then just a really awful thing happened at work on Friday. And so I kind of, just kind of lost my shit a little bit, sort of inside. Nobody knew that I was completely going to keep becoming unhinged. But in a nutshell, it's, you know, we're given these things to learn by. I always believe in that. But my intuition was tested so much that I was basically a hot crying mess on Friday. I left work um and I wasn't really sure. The best thing for me is I would have loved to have been able to have my husband just wrap his arms around me for a few seconds, and he helps to calm me, and I knew that that was impossible, and he's at work and he's a welder. There's no way he would have been able to do that, and I understand that. I was okay with that. And I just realized that I just needed some time. My soul was screaming at me for just some time. So make a long story short, I shut off my phone. I spent my intuition just kind of led me to a walk in a place where I used to go when I was a child, um, just to reflect for 5 hours in a cemetery. And I was talking to a squirrel, and it was actually really life changing. I needed to reflect. I needed to make wrap my brain around some hard decisions. Um, I needed to wrap my brain around making hard decisions. I just sort of kind of made that into one word. I didn't have my phone. I shut it off, left it in my car. I did have a few receipts. I literally journaled on every single receipt and envelope I had in my bag. I wrote a poem, which apparently was very, very profound. I have only read it 3 times and I break down every time I read it. I will share that with you at some point. I'm just not quite ready to share it, and I'm not quite sure in what capacity, but that is going to be spoken about because that was a life changing moment for me. And I learned a lot of things and I put a lot of things in place for myself. And I made a plan. And I actually realized and learned what my intuition was over my ego in a source of 5 hours, being guided, listening, just having the peace and space. So I just sort of wanted to share that with you guys today. I think it's really important because sometimes we just don't really understand where we're coming from. And it's really interesting to see and have the awareness between the two of intuition and ego. So let's start by defining intuition. I do talk about this a lot, and I say it in all different kinds of ways, but it's that inner voice, that gut feeling that guides you based on wisdom, experience, and a deep understanding of your true self. It's often that little quiet nudge in the right direction. It comes from a place of love, it comes from your higher self. It comes from a place of clarity and alignment with your core values. So, for example, you might intuitively feel that you and your husband need to spend more quality time together. Even though your schedules are hectic and your inner wisdom, you know, I guess you don't feel like you can even, how do you make this work? But your inner wisdom is recognizing the importance of that connection. So you're having that desire, that nudge, and it's coming from a really beautiful place. And sometimes it's also nudging you to just take some time and reflect and have some alone time. And that's what my intuition was doing. It was a calm. My emotions were raw. My emotions were erratic, and it was a place of like, go for a walk, go take some time alone, shut everything out. You need this, right? And it's just to listen. It feels good. The intuition aspect of it feels good. Now, let's talk about ego. Ego is more about self protection, it's about pride and a need for control or validation. It's driven by fear, insecurity, and a desire to prove or validate. It feels icky. It's driven by an insecurity and a desire to prove something, whether it's to yourself, your partner, or to the world. Ego can cloud your judgment, and it can lead to discussions that might protect your pride but harm your relationship. So you might, I just went through this, so this is super raw and real for me, but you might feel, like you want to be pitied. You want someone to feel sorry for you. You want someone to have sympathy, and you want your partner to fix you because you just think that that's what you need. And it just feels good to just be like worried about or cared about. And so the ego becomes louder than the intuition. And you know why? It's because it's the easier path. It's the self-sabotaging path. It's what's familiar, because if we actually listen to it and realize that our higher self is calling us to be a better version of ourselves, then it means that you usually have to do some internal work. And that sucks. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do reflection? Who wants to do shadow work, right? It's just easier to blame or have someone else do it for you or take care of you or just not do it. Feel sorry for you, pity you. And I was really tested with that. And some of the identifying signs of that, it's important to at least understand, kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from here, is intuition feels calm. It feels confident. And it's clear. It speaks in a gentle, reassuring tone and leads to decisions that just feel right in the long term. You just get a different feeling when those feelings and those thoughts come over you. On the other hand, ego feels urgent. It feels defensive. It's erratic. It's anxious. Your emotions are dysregulated. It's often driven by, making decisions that might provide short-term relief, but that will lead to regret or conflict later on because you're just not in alignment with your higher self. You're ignoring your higher self and you're listening to your ego. Now, I'd like to talk about recognizing the differences of this, when you're making some decisions in your marriage. So, some common scenarios in marriage where intuition and ego might clash. And this is about financial situations and decisions. This is a very relatable one for me. I'm not great with money. I'm much better than I ever was, and I'm always improving, but I need to be held accountable. And I'm aware of it, and I don't like it because I wish I was smarter and better with it. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I am smart. Um, but yeah, my ego gets in the way. Anyways, without going into crazy detail, and my husband still loves me. I hope. No, it's really not that bad. But anyways, you know, it, I hope these are all relatable for you guys. And I do want to try to get a little, deeper and more personal with you. And I'm hoping to have some more exclusive content come about very soon that will kind of go into a little more personal with me. If you want to get to know me, if you like listening to me, um, or just listening to, what I have to share, right? And if you can relate, it inspires you, I'm more than willing to share a little bit more about myself on a more personal level. Um, yeah, so that's something that I'm working on. But just get real. Just get real with your partner. Discuss stuff that's uncomfortable. So let's talk about that. So it could be a financial decision or a parenting approach. Like, maybe you have resolving conflicts that you're constantly talking about your parenting differences, especially if you're a blended family. Maybe you're just not on board with things. So during an argument, your intuition might gently suggest that a soft approach will lead to a better understanding and a resolution. But your ego might push you to stand your ground firmly, fearing that compromising would make you appear weak. God damn, that ego. It's so egotistical. It's like we want to be kind, but then we don't want to appear weak. God forbid. Just fucking be real. We all have our flaws and our quirks and our ways of being, and we are all on this journey to just kind of learn from our mistakes and learn from things. So I've learned a lot. I've been tested a lot in my 53 years on this beautiful planet. Um, and if I can help you guys out in any way, this is why I'm here, and I like to talk. So this works for me. So yeah, so after that little punch to your gut, or a little punch to my gut, um, a little self-reflection never hurts, right? And I invite you to ask yourself these questions when you are faced with a decision. Am I making this decision from a place of love and understanding? Or am I trying to protect my pride? And is this choice aligning with our shared goals and values as a married couple, or am I reacting to fear and insecurity? So I'm going to actually just repeat that, and I'm going to share an example with you where I, in the moment, chose to understand what my intuition was more so and listen to it over my ego. So in a marriage, when you are faced with decisions based on your marriage, that you have discussed as a couple, is it aligning with your shared goals and values as a married couple? Or am I reacting to fear and insecurity? So am I going to make a decision from a place of love and understanding? Or am I going to make a decision that's going to protect my pride? So I had a moment Friday, spent 5 hours in a cemetery talking to a squirrel. I will talk about it at some point. I'm not ready to right now. I wrote a poem. It was profound. Um, I wanted to sit in my ugly crying pity party moment and like, why me? Why is all this happening? And, all the things. And I worked through a lot that day. And I wanted to just kind of come home and I wanted him to scoop me up and fix everything and come home like a hot mess, like, oh, the damsel in distress. Like, no, it wasn't coming from a mean, manipulative way, but it was coming from the ego. And I was like, girl, that's not sexy. That is not sexy. That is not what your husband signed up for with you. You already know he's there for you. You already know he'll scoop you up. He will scoop you up. He always scoops you up. But this is not sexy. You did not spend $7,000 on coaching for you to not figure this shit out on your own and coach yourself back. This is why you did it. If I never make a dime ever coaching or mentoring ever, at least I will have the coping skills to be a better human and to create myself to be the best partner in my marriage that I can be. And that's honestly what I told him when I spent the $7,000. So for me to just sit there and go like, this is not like what's happening. I don't know what I want to do with this and why me. And I don't have the courage to do this. And why am I always self-sabotaging? And, I just reflected and a lot of answers came to me and I was just being tested. The universe had my back. Everything's in place. Everything's going. My passport's coming next week. Flights are booked. Yay. We still have a couple of hoops to go through, but everything is coming into place and I'm being tested to see how badly I want this. And because I've been procrastinating, I've been sort of self-sabotaging and self-doubting. And it's just the universe saying, you know what, girl, like pick yourself up and like I'm going to make you do some shit so you can prove to yourself that you are capable. And I believe that that's exactly what happened. So by the end of it, I was having a fantastic time. I was observing more. I'm more curious about just what was going on around me. Um, Watching older couples in the distance. Oh my God, just loving life. And I was blessed for everything that I have, blessed for everybody that's in my life that chooses to stick around and understand my weirdness. And, it's, it's just, I have a fucking great life. And I wanted to come home and I knew my husband, like I said, would scoop me up and hug me anyways and be there for me. But I wanted to come home and I wanted to feel okay, I wanted to be like, I handled this. I'm okay. Yeah, I dealt with some shit. I dealt with some really big shit. But I dealt with it and I'm dealing with it and I'm a big girl and I got my big girl panties on and I'm not here to suck the energy out of your night and you know it just felt great and that's when I realized my intuition was speaking much louder than my ego because it's like but that this means I now have to keep myself accountable and make a list and do the things I need to be doing and start eating healthier and have a better sleep routine, all the things I keep telling myself that I'm, dibble dabble in, but I'm not consistent with. And they're going to help with my mental health, my physical health. And I just basically coached myself. I parented myself. What would I do if my daughter right now was ugly crying underneath a tree, talking to a squirrel in a cemetery? What would I tell her? What would I say to her? And those are the things that I said to myself. Yeah. And I will get deep. I will get deep with that. I will reveal my poem, but not today. I'm just not ready for it today. But this is what led to this episode. And so please, when you are making decisions in your marriage, is this choice that you are making, does it align with your shared goals and values that you communicated when you got together, when you fell in love, when you got married, when you built this relationship, this beautiful relationship that you have? Or are you reacting to fear and insecurity and self doubt and self sabotage? So here's a practical exercise. The next time you're about to make a decision, pause and reflect. Take a moment of silence and ask yourself if your feelings are coming from intuition or ego. Another powerful tool, and you will hear me preach this a lot, is journaling. Spend a few minutes each morning or evening reflecting on a decision you recently made or that you're going to make that day. Was it guided by intuition or ego? How did it make you feel? This will help you to identify patterns and become more self aware. Everything starts with self, and everything comes back to self. Now, how does this impact on your marriage? When you follow your intuition, you often find that your relationship becomes more harmonious, connected, and peaceful. Peaceful. Ladies, there's nothing like a peaceful relationship. I have had violent turmoil, full of turmoil relationships. That doesn't really sound right, but you get what I'm saying. There's nothing like a peaceful relationship. Intuition, guided decisions align with your values and lead to long-term fulfillment. For example, prioritizing open communication because it feels right intuitively can strengthen your bond and deepen your connection. Challenges of ego-driven decisions. So when your ego drives your decisions, it can create power struggles, resentment, and emotional distance. So think about a time when you insisted on being right in an argument. I mean, ladies, it happens. It happens. You just have to be right sometimes. That's driven by ego. You just had to be right. You weren't even willing to even hear your partner's side of it or perspective of it or anything. You just had to be right. That was ego. How did that impact your relationship? Did it damage your trust and your closeness? Did it create some resentment? Did it make you feel icky? It doesn't feel good, does it? I can guarantee you that did not feel good. So, but here's the twist. Let's not kick ego completely to the curb because balancing intuition and ego is key. While ego isn't always negative, it can protect us and help us set some boundaries. So it does need to be kept in check, and mindfulness practices like meditation or deep breathing can help calm your mind and make it easier to discern between intuition and ego. I always just find that the intuition just feels calming and it feels good. The ego kind of feels erratic, anxious. I get a little butterfly, like not a good butterfly-ish anxious feeling in my belly. And it feels icky. Like it just doesn't sit right with me. So that's how I determine. And that hit me like a brick on Friday. I was like, oh, intuition and ego. Oh my goodness. There's two completely different things here. So yes, breathing can help calm your mind and make it easier to discern between the intuition and the ego. So I also suggest, and I talk about this on the podcast quite a bit, but please just create a weekly check-in or a ritual, a few minutes a day. It's great to do it by yourself, alone time, like when you're journaling and stuff, but it's really important to do this with your husband. Sometimes, like I work sometimes 48-hour shifts back to back, like a 24-hour shifts. So I don't actually get to see him. If I get a chance, I might do a little FaceTime, but we always have a little text and, just some form of little communication. How's it going? How's your day? Good morning, good evening, little kiss, just have a check-in. Just have a check-in with your husband, your spouse. your partner, however you guys want to identify with each other, where, if you do have the time, please do make the time if you can. Discuss your decisions and feelings openly. I mean, you're not going to have a full-fledged, that can get exhausting too, right? You don't have like a daily itinerary of everything every single day. Make it spontaneous, make it fun. Maybe you're catching up on 3 or 4 days worth of stuff in an hour of conversation, but then the other few days you're just having a few minute conversations and just some snuggle time. Whatever works for you. Don't make it weird. Like, don't force it. Don't, just don't. Sometimes I want to talk more. Sometimes my husband wants to talk more, and we're both not really in the mood for that. So, we just kind of, we understand each other. We have our own languages of making our point across without being hurtful. That, I get that, or, and we just understand. So it's just maybe not our time or day to be interrogating each other or oversharing. I'm really good at oversharing. Um, right, husband, if you're listening, I saw you listening to my podcast the other day, which I'm super blessed for. So thank you. I didn't think you'd want to hear my voice. You always hear my voice. Yeah. So please take the time. You're in this together. Now, let's not kick ego completely to the curb. Balancing intuition and ego is key. While ego isn't always negative, it can protect us and help us to set some boundaries. But it does need to be kept in check. And mindfulness practices like meditation or deep breathing can help calm your mind and make it easier to discern between intuition and ego. Now, I also do suggest, and I do talk about this on the podcast quite a bit, is create a weekly check-in or a ritual, just a few minutes daily with your husband, your spouse, where you discuss your decisions and feelings openly, helping each other recognize whose ego might be interfering in your relationship. Set that safe space for your partner to be vulnerable. I do talk about this as well. In communication, just have that. You need to be able to create that safe space. If you want some deep conversations, ladies, you need to create that safe space for your husband to be able to share that. If you're jumping down his throat the second that he says something that, is uncomfortable for you or you weren't really expecting, then he's going to shut down again. I don't know why I said that, but I was just compelled to say that. I'm not, no judgment, but I'm just saying, if you do find yourself in that moment, I've been there. That's probably why I said it. I can still be there sometimes. And sometimes it's really hard for us to hold our tongue and just listen and just not get defensive. But then that's your ego. That's your ego wanting to jump in and protect your pride. So then usually what we are uncomfortable with when other people are talking about it, it's because it's a direct reflection of ourselves. And I think I've said this before too, because I just always feel like I'm repeating the same stuff. But yeah, if there's something, a behavior that you don't like in someone else, your spouse and a friend, whatever, your child even sometimes, just look a little bit deeper. It's because it's a direct reflection of your ego not liking something that you don't like in yourself. Your ego is like, no, that hurts because I feel that. It's like that, it's that term, right? If the shoe fits, lace that bitch up. Like, if you can resonate with that, that's because there's something there that's hitting you in a spot that you don't like usually. It can be positive, but in this way, it's your ego talking. So here's 3 simple exercises you can start implementing today. Wow, this is becoming a very long podcast. Maybe I'll have to edit some stuff out. If you're still with me, thank you. Thank you very much. 3 simple exercises that you can start implementing today daily mindfulness practice. Again, this is going to be a repeat from other episodes and other tips and tricks and whatnot I share. Start each day with a 5 to 10 minute mindfulness meditation, focusing on calming your mind and turning into your intuition. Turn into yourself, tune into yourself, start listening to that inner voice that you hear. Maybe it's images you get, maybe it's thoughts. You can use a simple breathing technique. I do inhaling for 5 counts, holding for 5, and exhaling for 7 to create a sense of calm and clarity. You can Google, there's different breathing exercises. Actually, my husband introduced me to a breathing exercise today to help strengthen and expand our lungs for singing. And it was actually very meditative. You have to hold your breath for 45 seconds and then it gets shorter. And oh man, you got to be careful with it. But that was a whole different thing. So see what works for you. But just for myself, to bring myself into a sense of calm, I do inhaling for 5 seconds, holding for 5, and exhaling for 7. Number 2, ego versus intuition, journaling. So I'm always talking about journaling. I try to do morning, but I'm all about journaling whenever you can. Take a few minutes each evening to journal about a decision that you made that day. So reflect on whether it was guided by intuition or was it the ego, and consider how it made you feel. This practice will help you become more self-aware of when and how each is influencing your choices. So I have to tell you, when I chose to make that decision and listen to all the guidance I was getting, was that, you're going to be okay when you get home, and you're going to be grateful for everything you have, and you're going to be okay, and it's going to be a great night, and your husband's, going to just feel your energy's good. You're good. And I was so proud of myself for choosing to fix myself and not fall back into some older patterns when I'm feeling weak or vulnerable, or just, the world's caving in, right? It's really not. I was just being tested because I had been in a moment in time where I needed that. I just needed that. And I did some self-reflection and I figured that shit out by myself. No one else is going to figure your shit out but yourself. And it was great. And I felt proud and I feel really good about it. And then we had some really great sex. So there you go. Number 3, couples reflection time. Set aside 15 minutes daily or weekly to discuss any decisions. Like I said, okay, so let's not overdo it. If 15 minutes per day is too much, it shouldn't be. But if it's too much, then, let's do what's right. Maybe it's while you're cooking dinner together, having a conversation. It doesn't have to be sitting facing each other, a lot of time. We love that. We just love each other's company. But please, please, please set some time aside to do some couples reflection. And during this time, practice active listening, where one of you are speaking to the other, you're listening without interrupting, and this will help you tune into each other's intuitive insights and ensure that ego doesn't overshadow your connection. Because you're really going to be in tune. You're going to be listening. You're going to see that the conversation is coming from love. And trust me, it's just super cool. It really works. It takes time sometimes, but you'll see what the ego will give you, that hesitation and that block. And then you're like, oh, that kind of hurts, but I need to hear this. I don't want to live a life with my husband and him have secret resentments because he's afraid to tell me, because it hurts my ego and I put up a defense and then it makes him feel bad. We actually had this conversation today. See, we are always learning and always growing with each other. And it was really wonderful. And I said, no, you need to honor your boundaries and you need to honor, like, it's okay to say no to me. I do want to understand. And then if I react in a certain way that's unladylike, that's my ego. I mean, unless he's being hurtful, which he would never. Truthful. And sometimes the truth can be hurtful, but then that's usually a direct reflection of me. That's a me problem, not a him problem. And that is difficult and it's very challenging. And it's something that is probably going to be worked on forever. But just being aware of it is incredible. And you only discover those kind of things when you take the time out of your day to truly get to know your husband and your spouse, your partner, your lover, your life mate, your best friend. We spend so much time with other people at work and we know them more often in a deeper level than we do our spouse. So take that time. I'm very much about taking that time with your man or your woman. Okay, so let's just kind of do a little recap. I've kind of gone all over the board this week. And I apologize, I'm late, so maybe you're kind of almost getting a double dose here. We have explored the important distinction between intuition and ego in marital decisions. We've discussed how to recognize the signs of each and how following your intuition can lead to a more fulfilling relationship. While the ego-driven decisions can create challenges, and the biggest thing, guys, is just the importance of being aware of it. And that helps you learn about your own intuition. Because the second you can feel, you put the physical feeling and how you're feeling when you make that decision on what your thoughts are, you instantly will know whether it's intuition or ego. And then you're like, ooh, okay, that was my intuition. Thank you. Thank you for speaking louder and being more peaceful and making me feel good as opposed to scared but icky. I don't know. It's the best way I can describe it. Now, I encourage you to start implementing these exercises today. Honestly, any moment you can. Begin your morning with mindfulness, reflect in the evening with journaling, and make time for open discussions with your partner. As always, I'd love to hear your experiences or any questions you have. So feel free to connect with me on social media. I don't have a big following yet, but I'm going to one day. We all got to start somewhere, right? Amanda Pott on Facebook. I am AmandaJane.Pott on Instagram. Also the Intuitive Marriage Podcast Instagram. And we'll be expanding at some point. But right now, this is where I'm at. And I will end up having a episode coming to you with my poem. And I will talk to you about why I spent 5 hours in a cemetery talking to a squirrel and how it completely changed my perception on moving forward in my life. So, this journey of growth and self-awareness together, I love it. I thank you for being here with me. And until next time, trust your gut, keep love at the center, and let your intuition lead the way. Bye for now.